All her life she has been rejected because she was black and fat, living on the cover to avoid humiliation until the most feared man in Korea chose her, not because of what she can do, but for what she was about to become. And that choice would cost a lot of lives to be lost. On that rain-soaked November night in 2019, Rebecca Ricks would collide with a man whose very name made grown men flinch, Jun-ho Kang, known in Seoul's criminal underworld as the Ghost. And in that collision, everything she'd been taught about her worthlessness would shatter like glass under a hammer, because the man who commanded an empire built on fear would see what no one else had bothered to look for, not her body, not her skin, but the brilliant, unbreakable thing burning beneath. This is not a story about a woman who changed herself to be loved. This is a story about a woman who refused to die quietly, and a man who finally learned that true power wears no disguise. The fluorescent lights of the PC bang buzzed like dying insects, casting a sickly glow over rows of gamers lost in digital worlds. Rebecca Ricks sat in the corner station, always the corner, always the back, her fingers flying across the keyboard with the precision of a concert pianist. Lines of code scrolled down her screen in cascading green, a language she spoke more fluently than Korean, more naturally than the English that still marked her as foreign after 3 years in this city. At 102 kilograms and 165 centimeters, Rebecca had learned to read a room within seconds of entering it. She knew which convenience store clerks would pretend not to see her waiting at the counter. She knew which subway cars to avoid during rush hour, when the press of bodies became a referendum on how much space she deserved. She knew the exact pitch of the whispers that followed her. Miguk Saram, American, though they always made it sound like an accusation. Neomu Kyoyo, too big. Jeomeungi, the black one. Seoul had taught her to make herself smaller in every way but the one that mattered. Her screen flickered. A security alert buried in the city's traffic management system, so subtle that the automated defenses had missed it entirely. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. She'd been tracking this particular signature for 3 weeks. A ghost in the machine that moved like smoke through Seoul's digital infrastructure. Government databases, corporate servers, banking systems, always probing, never taking, as if searching for something specific. Tonight, the ghost had made a mistake. Rebecca's fingers stilled over the keyboard. The intrusion pattern had shifted from reconnaissance to action, worming its way into the security grid of the Shilla Hotel in Gyeongchang-dong. Not the guest database or payment systems. That would be too obvious. No, this was targeting the building management system itself. Climate control, elevators, fire suppression. Her breath caught. Someone was preparing to kill someone inside that hotel. Tonight, she should call the police. She should close her laptop and go back to her shoebox apartment in Itaewon, to the rejection letters from Hagwons, who wanted energetic young teachers, to the dating apps where Korean men would match with her by accident, and then unmatch within seconds of seeing her photos. She should return to the life of careful invisibility she'd built, where survival meant never being noticed. But Rebecca had spent 3 years being invisible, 3 years since the job at Google Seoul fell through, because the hiring manager took one look at her, and suddenly the approved position had unexpected budget constraints. 3 years freelancing as a digital security consultant, brilliant enough to clean up other people's messes, but never light-skinned or thin enough to be hired full-time. 3 years watching Korean women her age glide through the world like swans, while she lumbered through it like a warning sign. Her finger hovered over the enter key. If she triggered this alarm, she'd expose herself. The ghost would know someone was watching. But inside that hotel, someone was about to die. And maybe, just maybe, Rebecca was tired of being the kind of person who disappeared when it mattered. She pressed enter. The building management system locked down instantly, every access point frozen. Somewhere in Gyeongchang-dong, an assassin's carefully laid plan had just turned to smoke. And somewhere in the digital shadows, the ghost had just learned that someone in Seoul was good enough to see him coming. Rebecca's phone buzzed. an unknown number. Her hand trembled as she answered. "Who is this?" The voice was male, Korean, and cold enough to frost the line between them, not angry. That would have been safer. This was the voice of someone calculating the cost of a problem. "Someone who just saved your life," Rebecca said, her Korean rough but functional. "You're welcome, by the way." Silence stretched like a blade between them. Then, "The Shilla Hotel, presidential suite, 1 hour, come alone." "I don't even know who You've been tracking me for 3 weeks, Miss Ricks. I think it's time we met." The line went dead. Rebecca stared at her phone, her reflection ghostly in the black screen. He knew her name, which meant he'd been watching her while she'd been watching him, which meant she'd just painted a target on her back that no amount of invisibility could hide. The smart thing would be to run, pack her single suitcase, drain her meager bank account, and catch the next flight to anywhere. Seoul had never wanted her anyway. But as Rebecca sat in that flickering PC bang, surrounded by teenagers screaming into headsets about games that didn't matter, she felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Seen. Someone had looked at her work, not her body, not her face, but the thing she was actually good at, and deemed it worthy of attention. Even if that attention came from someone dangerous enough to warrant assassination attempts. She stood, her chair scraping against the floor. The teenager at the next station glanced at her, then quickly away, as if her size might be contagious. Rebecca was used to that look, but as she walked out into the November rain, she wondered if tonight might be the last time anyone would dare to look away. Across the city, in the presidential suite of the Shilla Hotel, Jun-ho Kang stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching Seoul glitter below him like a circuit board. At 34, he'd built an empire that existed in the spaces between laws, digital currencies, information brokerage, strategic violence applied with surgical precision. The Americans called them the Mafia. The Koreans called them Jopok. Jun-ho called it business. He was tall for a Korean man, 183 centimeters of lean muscle and expensive tailoring, with the kind of face that made people nervous. Beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful, all clean lines and lethal edges. His hair was pushed back from his forehead, revealing a thin scar above his left eyebrow, the only visible evidence of a childhood he never discussed. "She's coming," his second-in-command, Min-ho, said from the doorway. "Do you really think this is wise? We don't know anything about her except that she's unusual." Jun-ho didn't turn from the window. She saw through Ghost Protocol in less than 30 seconds. It took Russian intelligence 6 months just to confirm it existed. "She's American, and she's black," Jun-ho finished, his voice empty of inflection. "And fat, I've seen her file. Is there a point to this observation, Min-ho?" Min-ho shifted uncomfortably. "The families won't accept it. You bring in an outsider, especially one who looks like that, and they'll see it as disrespect. Weakness. Good." Jun-ho finally turned, his expression unreadable. "Let them think I'm distracted. Let them think I've grown soft, chasing after foreign women. And while they're whispering about my poor judgment, we'll see which of them moves against me." Understanding dawned in Min-ho's eyes. "She's bait. She's a genius who just saved my life." Jun-ho's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. "What happens next depends entirely on her." He checked his watch. 53 minutes until Rebecca Ricks walked into a world that would either kill her or crown her. Either way, Seoul would never forget her name. "Hello, beautiful. Before the year runs out, I just want you to know you matter. You could be anywhere, yet you are here, and that choice means something. If this story keeps you company, subscribe, and let's know the comfort of where you are watching from. Now, let us continue. The Shilla Hotel rose from the Seoul cityscape like a temple to wealth, all marble, and gold-threaded elegance that made Rebecca's thrift store coat feel like a confession of poverty. She'd taken the subway to Dongguk University Station, then walked the rest of the way through streets slick with rain, giving herself time to consider the 17 different ways this night could end with her body in the Han River. The lobby was a cathedral of quiet judgment. Rebecca felt the concierge's eyes track her from the moment she entered. Not hostile, just cataloging, the way you might note a stray dog wandering into a five-star restaurant. Her sneakers squeaked against the marble. Each sound announced her wrongness in this space. "Presidential suite," she said in Korean, her accent making the words clumsy. "I have an appointment." The concierge's smile was professional ice. Name? Rebecca Ricks. A phone call. A murmured conversation. Then a subtle shift in the woman's posture. Not warmth exactly, but the careful neutrality of someone who'd just been told to stop asking questions. 34th floor. The elevator is to your right. The elevator was glass and chrome, and Rebecca avoided her reflection during the ascent. She knew what she'd see. A fat black woman in a rain-soaked coat, her natural hair pulled into a hasty bun, her face bare of makeup because she'd learned years ago that trying to be pretty only invited crueler comparisons. Better to not try at all. Better to make her plainness a choice rather than a failure. The doors opened directly into the suite's foyer. Rebecca had grown up working class in Detroit, where luxury meant a house with a yard and a car that started every morning. This penthouse was a different species of wealth entirely, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's nightscape, furniture that looked sculptural rather than functional, art on the walls that was probably worth more than her student loans. A man stood in the center of the room, and Rebecca's first thought was, of course he looks like that. Jun-ho Kang was beautiful, the way expensive things are beautiful, intimidating in their perfection, designed to remind you of everything you can't have. His suit probably cost more than her rent. His face could have sold cologne or cars or anything else that required you to believe beauty equaled worth. He was everything Seoul had taught her to worship from a distance and never touch. Miss Ricks. His English was flawless, barely accented. "Thank you for coming." Did I have a choice? Rebecca's voice came out rougher than she intended, Detroit creeping into her vowels the way it always did when she was nervous. "No." His honesty was somehow worse than a lie, but I appreciate the illusion of cooperation. "Please, sit." He gestured to a chair near the windows. Rebecca sat, hyper-aware of how the furniture groaned subtly under her weight, a sound she'd learned to hear even when it wasn't there. Jun-ho took the chair, opposite, his movements economical, controlled. Everything about him suggested violence held in check. "You saved my life tonight," he said. "I stopped a cyber attack. I don't know if it would have killed you." The building's fire suppression system was set to flood this suite with halon gas at 11:47 p.m. He checked his watch. 18 minutes from now, halon displaces oxygen. I would have suffocated in my sleep. His eyes, dark, unreadable, fixed on her face. "So yes, Miss Ricks, you saved my life." Rebecca's hands were shaking. She pressed them against her thighs. "Who are you?" "You've been tracking me for 3 weeks, you tell me. Your ghost protocol. You move through Seoul's digital infrastructure like you own it. Government systems, corporate databases, banking networks. You're either intelligence services or organized crime. And intelligence wouldn't need to bypass security like you do. So, criminal." She met his gaze, forcing herself not to look away. High level, connected. The kind of person who has enemies with resources. A smile ghosted across his lips, there and gone. "Jun-ho Kang. My friends call me Jun-ho. My enemies call me the Ghost. You may call me whichever feels appropriate." The name detonated in Rebecca's memory. Fragments of overheard conversations in expat bars. Warnings from other foreigners about areas of Seoul to avoid. The Kang family. Untouchable, ruthless. The kind of power that lived in shadows but shaped everything in the light. "Oh, God." Her voice was barely a whisper. "You're that Kang. Does that frighten you?" "Yes." Another small honesty that felt safer than lying. Jun-ho leaned forward, elbows on his knees, studying her the way a jeweler might study a stone. "Someone in my organization is trying to kill me, not for power. I've eliminated those threats. This is more subtle. They're trying to make it look like an accident, which means they're patient, smart, close enough to my inner circle to know my routines. Why are you telling me this? Because I have a proposition, Miss Ricks, and I believe in informed consent. His voice was clinical, discussing murder the way another man might discuss stock options. I need to flush out this traitor. To do that, I need to appear distracted, vulnerable, weak enough to attack openly rather than through accidents. Rebecca's stomach tightened. And you need me because you are, forgive my bluntness, the most unlikely woman I could possibly show interest in. He said it without cruelty, just fact. You are foreign, black, overweight by Korean standards. My family, my organization, the entire criminal infrastructure of the city, they will see you as proof that I've lost my focus. That grief has made me soft. Grief? Something flickered in his expression, too fast to name. My wife died 2 years ago. Since then, I've been untouchable. The man who killed her, I made an example that still gives my enemies nightmares. But now I need them to think that Fortress has cracks, that I'm distracted by an inappropriate infatuation with a woman who represents everything my world rejects. Each word was a small blade, cutting with accuracy. Rebecca stood, her chair scraping back. So I'm the joke, the punchline that makes you look weak. You're the genius who saw through military-grade encryption in 30 seconds. Jun-ho stood as well, and his voice carried an edge now, something sharp beneath the polish. You're the woman brave enough to trigger that alarm knowing it would expose you. You're the asset I need, Miss Ricks. The question is whether you're brave enough to use yourself as bait. Why would I possibly agree to this? Because I'll pay you 2,000,000 per week. Because I'll give you access to security systems that will make your resume glow. Because you'll be under my protection, which in this city means something. He paused. And because for the first time since you arrived in Seoul, someone is seeing past your skin and your size to the thing that actually matters. The truth of that statement hit like a fist to the chest. Rebecca blinked hard against the heat in her eyes. You're using me. Yes, but I'm offering you something no one else in this city has. A chance to be valuable. Not despite what you look like, but because of it. He pulled out his phone, typed something, and hers buzzed. A wire transfer notification. 5,000,001. Consider that a signing bonus. Or don't. Walk away tonight, and I'll ensure no one in my organization ever troubles you. But Miss Ricks? His voice dropped, intimate and cold. You'll spend the rest of your life wondering who you might have been if you'd been brave enough to say yes. Rebecca looked at her phone. 5,000,001. Nearly $4,000. 3 months of rent. A year of not having to carefully calculate every meal, every subway ride, every small dignity that cost money. Through the windows, Seoul glittered like broken glass. If I do this, she said slowly, and your traitor comes for you, they'll come for me too. Yes, I could die, yes, but you'll protect me. Jun-ho's smile was knife-thin. Miss Ricks, if you agree to this, you won't just be under my protection. You'll become part of my armor, and I protect my armor with everything I have. Rebecca thought of every subway ride where she'd made herself small, every job interview where she'd seen her worthlessness reflected in polite smiles, every dating app conversation that died the moment her photos loaded, every single day of being invisible in a city that had never wanted to see her. How long, she asked, until the traitor reveals themselves? Weeks, perhaps months. And then? Then you walk away rich, alive, and with a story no one will ever believe. Rebecca looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who'd built an empire on fear and was now asking her to be his greatest vulnerability. The smart thing, the safe thing, would be to run. But safety had never gotten her anywhere. I want 4,000,001 per week, she said. And I want it in writing that if I die, my family gets 10 million. Jun-ho's smile was genuine this time, a flash of something almost human. Miss Ricks, I believe we have an agreement. He extended his hand. Rebecca shook it, his grip firm and cool, and felt the world she'd known tilt sideways into something unrecognizable. Outside, Seoul glittered on, unaware that the most unlikely queen was about to walk into its underworld and set everything on fire. The contract arrived at Rebecca's apartment the next morning via courier, a kid on a motorcycle who handed her a leather portfolio without meeting her eyes. Inside, 10 pages of legal Korean, dense enough to require 3 hours and a translation app to parse. But the numbers were clear: 4,000,000 per week. Death benefit: 10,000,000 to her designated beneficiary. She signed it on her kitchen counter, next to a cup of instant coffee gone cold. Then spent the next 2 days trying to convince herself she hadn't just sold her life to a beautiful monster. Rebecca didn't leave her apartment. She ordered delivery, tteokbokki, fried chicken, convenience store kimbap, and ate mechanically while running security protocols on her laptop. Anything to keep her hands busy, and her mind from screaming, "What have you done? What have you done? What have you done?" On the third day, Jun-ho called. "You're hiding," he said without preamble. "I'm preparing." Rebecca pulled her blanket tighter around her shoulders, suddenly aware of how small her studio apartment was, how the walls seemed to press in. "You said weeks, maybe months. I'm just getting cold feet." His voice was neutral, but she heard the assessment in it. "Understandable. You've agreed to let a criminal organization use you as bait. Most people would reconsider. Are you calling to let me out of the contract?" Silence. Then, "No. I'm calling to tell you that tomorrow night, you'll accompany me to a charity gala at the Lotte Hotel. Black tie. I'm sending a stylist to your apartment at noon." Rebecca's stomach dropped. "Tomorrow? That's too soon. I need more time to—" "The traitor is watching, Miss Ricks. Every day we delay makes this look calculated rather than impulsive. We need to appear as though I've lost my mind over you." A pause. "Which means we need to be seen. Tomorrow. I don't have anything to wear to a gala. The stylist will handle it. Jun-ho—" His name felt strange in her mouth, too intimate. "I can't just show up on your arm at some society event. People will ask questions. They'll want to know who I am, where we met. You're a digital security consultant I hired for a corporate project. We met professionally. The attraction was unexpected." He said it like he was reading from a script, which he probably was. "Keep your answers vague. Let me handle the details. What if I mess up? What if I say the wrong thing and blow your cover? Then we adapt." His voice softened just slightly. "Miss Ricks, I'm not asking you to be someone you're not. I'm asking you to stand beside me and let them see you. That's all. Let them see you." Rebecca thought of every party she'd avoided, every social event she'd declined, because the thought of walking into a room full of beautiful people was worse than staying home alone. She thought of her mother's voice on their last phone call. "Baby, when are you coming home? Seoul isn't working out, is it? What if they laugh?" The question came out small, ashamed. Jun-ho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, something in his tone had changed, less clinical, more human. "They will? Let them. Laughter is just noise, Miss Ricks. It can't actually hurt you. You don't know what it's like." "No," he agreed. "I don't. I've been many things, but invisible has never been one of them." Another pause. "But I know what it's like to be underestimated. And I know that the people who laugh loudest are usually the ones most afraid of being wrong." Rebecca closed her eyes. 4,000,000 per week. A chance to be valuable. A chance to matter, even if the mattering was just playing a role in someone else's game. "What time tomorrow?" she asked. "The stylist arrives at noon. I'll collect you at 7. She could hear the satisfaction in his voice. "Wear the armor they give you, Miss Ricks. Tomorrow, we go to war." He hung up. Rebecca sat in her apartment's dim light, contract pages scattered around her like evidence of a crime, and tried to remember the last time she'd felt this terrified and this alive at the same time. Across the city, Jun-ho stood in his office. Not the penthouse suite, but his real workspace, Spartan and windowless, where he made the decisions that kept his empire breathing. Minho stood by the door, arms crossed. "She's already breaking," Minho said. 3 days in hiding. She'll run." "No." Jun-ho's voice was certain. "She's afraid, but she signed the contract. She took the money. And tomorrow, she'll show up. He pulled up Rebecca's file on his screen, her photo from her freelance website, carefully lit to minimize the features Seoul found offensive. Because she spent 3 years being invisible, and I just offered her a spotlight. Even if it burns her alive? Jun-ho closed the file. That's what armor is for. But as he said it, he felt something unfamiliar. Twist in his chest. Not quite guilt, but its shadow. Rebecca Ricks was brilliant, brave, and he was about to parade her through a room full of wolves who would tear her apart for sport. Necessary, he reminded himself. The traitor needs to see weakness. He just hoped Rebecca was strong enough to survive being his. The stylist arrived with an entourage. 3 people descended on Rebecca's apartment like a tactical team. Hair, makeup, wardrobe, transforming her cramped studio into a chaotic salon. The lead stylist, a woman named Min Seo, with platinum hair and a measuring tape slung around her neck like a weapon, circled Rebecca with the clinical assessment of a surgeon. She said, which Rebecca had learned was Korean for, "This will be difficult." "I know I'm not what you usually work with," Rebecca started. Min Seo's eyes snapped to hers. "You're exactly what I work with. A canvas." She pulled out her phone, showed Rebecca a photo of Jun-ho. "He wants you to look like yourself. Just elevated. Can you trust me? Do I have a choice?" Min Seo's smile was sharp. "No, but I appreciate the illusion." The next 6 hours were transformation. Not the kind where fat girls became thin and suddenly worthy. Min Seo worked with what was there, finding a dress in deep emerald that skimmed rather than clung, that made Rebecca's brown skin glow like amber. The makeup artist focused on her eyes, lining them in gold and black until they looked enormous, striking. The hairstylist coaxed her natural curls into a crown of soft ringlets. "You have a beautiful face," the makeup artist said in careful English. "Strong, regal, like a queen." Rebecca's throat tightened. No one had ever called her beautiful without it feeling like pity. At 6:47 p.m., Min Seo stepped back. "Look." Rebecca turned to the mirror. The woman looking back was her, undeniably, completely her. Still fat, still black, still every single thing Seoul had taught her was wrong. But there was something else now, something in the set of her shoulders, the way the dress moved like water over her curves, the defiant beauty of her face framed in gold and curls. She looked like someone who mattered. The door buzzer rang. Jun-ho's voice crackled through. "Is she ready?" Min Seo looked at Rebecca, eyebrow raised. Rebecca took a breath that felt like diving underwater. "Yes." Jun-ho stood in the hallway in a tuxedo, and for a moment his expression flickered. Not shock, something quieter. Recognition. "Miss Ricks." He stepped inside. "You look formidable." Min Seo packed up quickly. At the door, she paused. "Whatever he's paying you, it's not enough." Then they were gone. "We should discuss the plan," Jun-ho said. "The gala is hosted by the Park family. Old money, legitimate fronts, criminal connections. Stay close to me. Some of these people are dangerous." Rebecca's hands shook. "What? If this doesn't work?" Jun-ho moved closer. "Then we adapt. But you walking into that room on my arm will be the most shocking thing Seoul's Underworld has seen in a decade. Because I'm fat and black. Because you're real." His voice dropped. "These people wear masks so long they forget what's underneath. But you? Everything about you is honest. Your intelligence, your fear, your courage. It's destabilizing." From his pocket, he pulled a small box. Inside, a platinum bracelet with a black stone. "Panic button. Press it 3 times fast, and my security will be there in under 2 minutes." He fastened it around her wrist, his fingers cool and careful. The car was a black Mercedes. Leather seats that probably cost more than her laptop. As they pulled away from her building, Jun-ho scrolled through his phone. "When we arrive, there will be photographers. Let them take pictures. Don't hide your face." "That goes against every instinct I have." "I know." He glanced at her. "But tonight, you're not the woman who hides." The Lot Hotel rose before them, blazing with light, swarming with Seoul's elite. Rebecca saw the cameras, the red carpet, the beautiful people flowing in. Every cell in her body screamed to run. Jun-ho's hand found hers. Breathe. I can't do this. Yes, you can, because you're Rebecca Ricks, and you don't disappear anymore. His grip tightened. Ready? The door opened. Light and noise flooded in. Rebecca took his hand and stepped into the fire. The cameras exploded like gunfire. Flash after flash turned the world white, and Rebecca felt Jun-ho's hand at the small of her back, steady, possessive, guiding her through the gauntlet of photographers who shouted questions in Korean too rapid for her to parse. She caught fragments. Who is she? Where did she come from? Jun-ho, see? Is this your girlfriend? Jun-ho didn't answer. He just walked, and Rebecca matched his pace, chin up like Min-seo had taught her, even as her heart tried to claw its way out of her chest. Inside, the ballroom was a cathedral of wealth. Crystal chandeliers dripped light over women in gowns that cost more than cars, men in tailored tuxedos discussing business that shaped nations. And every single eye turned to watch them enter. The whispers started immediately, a rustling wave of shock that rolled through the crowd like wind through grass. Rebecca felt it on her skin, in her bones, the weight of their judgment, their confusion, their barely concealed disgust. Too big, too black, too wrong. Ignore them, Jun-ho murmured, his lips close to her ear. They're trying to understand how someone like you could possibly be here with someone like me. Let them wonder. A man approached, older, distinguished, with silver hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He spoke to Jun-ho in rapid Korean, pointedly not looking at Rebecca, as if she were furniture. Jun-ho's response was cool, switching to English. Director Park, allow me to introduce Rebecca Ricks. Rebecca, this is Director Park of Hanmi Corporation. He's been a business associate for many years. Park's smile tightened. He switched to heavily accented English. Miss Ricks, how unexpected. You are American? Yes. And you work in digital security. Rebecca forced her voice steady. I consult for various corporations on cybersecurity infrastructure. Ah. Park's tone suggested she'd admitted to selling knockoff handbags. How modern. He turned back to Jun-ho, reverting to Korean, clearly dismissing her. Jun-ho's hand tightened on her waist. His response was sharp enough that Park's expression faltered. Then Jun-ho was guiding her away, toward the bar. What did you say to him? Rebecca asked. That if he was rude to you again, I'd ensure his company's quarterly reports found their way to the Financial Services Commission. Jun-ho's voice was casual, but his jaw was tight, along with some interesting details about his offshore accounts. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. He caught a server's attention, ordered champagne. That's the arrangement, Miss Ricks. You stand beside me, and I destroy anyone who forgets their manners. The champagne arrived. Rebecca took a glass with trembling hands, took a sip, and nearly choked. It was better than any wine she'd ever tasted. Probably cost more per bottle than her monthly rent. Tell me something, Jun-ho said quietly, his eyes scanning the room with practiced vigilance. Why did you come to Seoul? 3 years ago. What were you running from? The question landed like a blade between ribs. What makes you think I was running? Because no one comes to Korea to disappear unless they're trying to escape something. His gaze returned to her face. So what was it? Bad relationship? Family trouble? Debt? Rebecca stared into her champagne, watching bubbles rise and burst. My mother, she said finally. She means well, but every time I saw her, all I could see was her disappointment. That I wasn't thin, that I wasn't married, that I wasn't the daughter she could brag about. The words came faster now, 3 years of silence breaking like a dam. She'd introduce me to people and apologize with her eyes, like I was something she had to explain away. So I applied for jobs overseas. Seoul was far enough that she couldn't just show up, far enough that I could pretend to be someone new. Did it work? Rebecca laughed, bitter. No. Turns out you can't outrun your body. Seoul just gave me new reasons to feel worthless. Jun-ho was quiet for a long moment. Then, my wife's name was Hana. We married young, an arrangement between families, political alliance disguised as love. She was beautiful, perfect by every standard that matters in this world. His voice was flat, emotionless, which somehow made it worse. She was also miserable, trapped in a life she never chose, married to a man who terrified her. Rebecca turned to look at him, but his gaze was fixed on the crowd. She tried to leave me. I wouldn't let her, not because I loved her, but because it would look weak. So she found another way out. His fingers tightened on his glass. Sleeping pills, enough to stop her heart in her sleep. She left a note. One line. I'm sorry I couldn't be brave enough to leave while breathing. Jun-ho, the man who sold her those pills, a doctor in our organization who thought helping her die would earn him favor with whoever wanted me distracted. I made an example of him. Very public, very brutal. His eyes finally met hers, and they were empty. Everyone thinks I'm mourning her. That grief has made me soft. But the truth is, Miss Ricks, I barely knew her. What haunts me is that she chose death over asking me for help. Rebecca's chest ached. That's not your fault, isn't it? I built a cage and called it protection. She died because staying with me felt worse than dying. He drained his champagne. So when I say I understand what it's like to be underestimated, to be trapped by what people assume you are, I mean it. Hana was a beautiful Korean woman from a good family. Everyone assumed she was happy. No one looked close enough to see she was drowning. Before Rebecca could respond, a woman's voice cut through the air. Sharp, elegant, Korean. Jun-ho's entire body tense. A woman approached, late 30s, stunning in a red gown that looked painted on, her smile predatory. She spoke rapidly to Jun-ho, ignoring Rebecca completely, her tone suggesting intimacy, history. Jun-ho's response was cold enough to frost the air. The woman's eyes finally slid to Rebecca, and her smile turned vicious. She said something in Korean, slow, deliberately clear, her tone dripping with contempt. Rebecca caught enough to understand. Fat, foreign, embarrassment. Jun-ho stepped between them, his voice dropping to something dangerous. The woman paled, bowed slightly, and retreated. Who was that? Rebecca's voice shook. Ji-woo, my late wife's sister. Jun-ho's jaw was granite. And the person I most suspect of trying to kill me. The ballroom suddenly felt smaller, the air thinner. She's your traitor? Possibly. She's never forgiven me for Hana's death, but she's also smart enough to play the long game. He turned to Rebecca. Which means tonight, she's watching, judging, deciding if I'm weak enough to kill. Rebecca's hand found the bracelet on her wrist, the panic button cold against her skin. Jun-ho's hand covered hers. Not yet. Let her watch. Let her think she knows what's happening. And what is happening? His smile was sharp as broken glass. You're making me look vulnerable, Miss Ricks, and doing an excellent job of it. They left the gala at midnight, Rebecca's feet screaming in heels never designed for a woman her size. Jun-ho guided her to the car, his hand steady at her elbow, and once the door closed behind them, the silence felt like falling into deep water. You survived, he said. Barely. Rebecca's laugh was shaky. She pulled off her shoes, wincing. How do Korean women do this? Walk around in torture devices and smile? Practice. And the belief that beauty requires suffering. Jun-ho loosened his tie, and for the first time all night, he looked almost human. Tired. The mask slipping. You did well tonight. Better than I expected. You expected me to run screaming? I expected you to try. His eyes found hers in the dim car. But you didn't. Even when Ji-woo tried to humiliate you, even when Park dismissed you like furniture, you stood there and took it. I didn't have much choice. There's always a choice, Miss Ricks. You chose to stay. Something shifted in his expression. Why? Rebecca thought about the question, really thought about it. Because for 3 years, I've been apologizing for existing. Tonight, you put me in a room full of people who think I'm worthless, and you made them see me anyway. That's... She struggled for words. That's the first time anyone's done that. Jun-ho was quiet. Then, "Are you hungry?" The question was so unexpected Rebecca laughed. "What? You barely ate at the gala, and I'm starving. There's a pojang matcha near Uido that stays open late. Best kimchi jjigae in Seoul." He leaned forward, spoke to the driver in Korean. "You're taking me to a street cart? In these clothes? I'm taking you to dinner, Miss Ricks. The venue is irrelevant." 20 minutes later, they sat on plastic stools under a tarp roof, steam rising from bowls of stew that smelled like heaven. The owner, an Ajuma with silver hair and sharp eyes, had taken one look at Jun-ho's tuxedo and Rebecca's gown and simply shrugged, as if well-dressed people ate at her cart all the time. Rebecca took a bite and nearly moaned. "Oh my God." Jun-ho smiled, genuine, unguarded. "Told you?" They ate in comfortable silence, the city humming around them. Delivery scooters zipped past. Drunk salarymen stumbled toward taxis. Seoul at night, raw and real, in a way the ballroom had never been. "Can I ask you something?" Rebecca said finally. "If Jiwoo is your suspect, why not just handle it? You're clearly capable." "Because I need to be certain. My world doesn't forgive mistakes." Jun-ho set down his spoon. "If I move against her and I'm wrong, her family will go to war. Hundreds of people will die, most of them innocent. But if I'm right and I wait too long," he trailed off, "she kills you first." "Yes." Rebecca studied him. This beautiful, dangerous man who'd built an empire on fear, but sat on a plastic stool eating cheap stew like it was the best meal he'd had in years. "Do you ever wish you could just walk away from all of it? Every day." The admission seemed to surprise him. "But this life, it doesn't let go easily. My father built this organization. I inherited it at 23 when he was killed. I've spent 11 years holding it together, making it stronger, making sure no one dares challenge us." His voice dropped. "And I'm so tired, Miss Ricks. So tired of the mask, the violence, the endless chess game, where one wrong move means death." Rebecca's hand moved without permission, covering his on the table. His fingers were cold. "Then why not walk away? Take your money and disappear." "Because the people who depend on me, my soldiers, their families, the businesses we protect, they can't disappear. And the moment I show weakness, the vultures will tear them apart." He looked at their joined hands. "So I stay. I play the game. And I try not to think about what I might have been if my father had chosen a different life." "What would you have been?" Jun-ho's smile was sad. "A programmer, maybe. Something boring and safe where the only thing that dies is code." He turned his hand over, threading his fingers through hers. "What about you? If you could be anything?" "Happy," Rebecca said simply. "Just happy. Not apologizing for my body, not shrinking myself to fit into spaces that were never designed for me. Just existing without feeling like it's a burden. That's not too much to ask." "It feels like it is." They sat there, hands joined, while the city moved around them. Two people who'd spent their lives wearing armor, pretending to be stronger than they felt, allowing themselves this small moment of honest vulnerability. Jun-ho's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned. "Min-ho, there's been movement. Someone accessing my personal security feeds." His jaw tightened. "They're watching my apartment." "Is it her?" "Possibly, or someone working for her." He stood, pulling cash from his wallet. "I need to go, but you—" He hesitated. "You shouldn't be alone tonight. My safe house in Gangnam has security. You'll stay there." "Jun-ho, I can go home." "Please." The word stopped her. "If Jiwoo is making her move, she might see you as leverage. I can't protect you if I'm worried about you being alone in Itaewon." Rebecca wanted to argue, but the fear in his eyes, real fear, not the cold calculation she'd seen before, made her nod. "Okay." His shoulders dropped slightly. "Thank you." In the car, heading toward Gangnam, Jun-ho made calls in rapid Korean, while Rebecca watched Seoul blur past. She thought about his hand in hers at the pojang matcha, the way he'd smiled over cheap stew, the exhaustion in his voice when he admitted he was tired. This was supposed to be a transaction, She was bait. He was using her. But somewhere between the gala and the street cart, something had shifted. They'd stopped being roles and started being people, two lonely, exhausted people who'd found unexpected understanding in the last place either expected. The safe house was a high-rise apartment in Gangnam, modern and impersonal. Jun-ho walked her inside, checked every room, showed her the security panel. "Lock this behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me or Minho." He paused at the door. "Rebecca?" The use of her first name made her breath catch. "Thank you. For tonight? For—" He seemed to struggle for words. "For being real." Then he was gone, and Rebecca was alone in a stranger's apartment, wearing a ball gown and no shoes, wondering when exactly she'd stopped being afraid of Jun-ho and started being afraid for him. Rebecca woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and the disorienting realization that she'd fallen asleep in an emerald gown on a leather sofa worth more than her car. Her phone showed 11:23 a.m. and 17 missed calls, all from Jun-ho. Her heart lurched. She called back immediately. "Where the hell have you been?" His voice was sharp, afraid. "I've been calling for 3 hours. I'm sorry, I fell asleep. I didn't hear." "Get dressed. Minho is downstairs. He'll bring you to me." A pause. "We have a problem." The line went dead. Minho arrived with clothes, jeans, a sweater, sneakers, all in her size. He didn't speak during the drive, his jaw tight, eyes constantly checking mirrors. They drove to a warehouse in Seongsu-dong, industrial and anonymous, the kind of place where bodies disappeared. Rebecca's hands were shaking when they entered. Jun-ho stood in the center of an empty space, his back to her, shoulders rigid. When he turned, his face was a mask of cold fury. "Tell me the truth," he said, his voice deadly quiet. "Who are you working for?" Rebecca's stomach dropped. "What?" "Last night, while you were sleeping in my safe house, someone used your credentials to access my personal server. Banking records, business contacts, security protocols." He took a step toward her. "Everything I've spent 11 years protecting, compromised. By you." "No, Jun-ho, I didn't." "The digital signature traces back to your laptop, your IP address, your user profile." Another step. "So either you're a plant, sent to get close to me, earn my trust, and gut me from the inside, or you're monumentally careless with your security. Which is it, Miss Ricks?" The formal address felt like a slap. Rebecca's mind raced. "My laptop was in my apartment. I haven't touched it since yesterday morning when your stylist arrived." "Convenient?" "It's the truth." Her voice cracked. "Jun-ho, please, I would never." "Wouldn't you?" He was close now, towering over her. A fat black woman no one takes seriously. Perfect cover for corporate espionage. Cybersecurity expert with a grudge against a city that rejected her. Angry enough to burn it all down if the price was right. Each word was a blade. Rebecca felt tears hot on her face. "You don't believe that." "I don't know what to believe." But something in his voice wavered, just slightly. 3 days ago, you were nobody. Now my entire operation is exposed because I was stupid enough to trust you. "Then kill me." Rebecca's voice was raw. "If you really think I betrayed you, do what you do to traitors. Make me an example. But don't stand there and pretend you don't know the truth." Jun-ho's hand moved to his waist, where she knew he kept a gun. For one terrible moment, she thought he might actually do it. Then Minho's voice cut through. "Jun-ho, we have the security footage from her building." A laptop appeared. Minho pulled up grainy video. Rebecca's apartment door, timestamp showing 3:47 a.m. A figure in dark clothes, face covered, lockpicks glinting. In and out in 12 minutes. Jun-ho's face went white. "Ji-woo's operative." "Has to be," Minho said. They knew about Rebecca, knew she'd be at the safe house. Used her system to make it look like she was the leak. Rebecca's knees gave out. She sat hard on the concrete floor, shaking. "You thought I betrayed you." Jun-ho turned to her, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked lost. "I'm sorry, He ran a hand through his hair. "In my world, trust gets you killed. I couldn't afford to believe in you." But you wanted to? It wasn't a question. Yes. The admission seemed to cost him. God help me, I wanted to. Rebecca laughed, bitter and broken. So what now? You apologize, and we pretend you didn't just accuse me of destroying your life, that you didn't look at me the same way everyone in Seoul looks at me, like I'm not worth the benefit of the doubt. Rebecca, no. She stood, wiping her face. You brought me into this. You made me believe I mattered, that someone finally saw past the surface to the person underneath. And the first time things went wrong, you assumed the worst. Because deep down, you're like everyone else. You see a fat black woman and think, of course she'd betray me. What else would someone like her do? That's not fair. Fair? Rebecca's voice rose. You put a gun on me 30 seconds ago. You stood there and listed all the reasons I'm the perfect criminal. My body, my race, my anger. Like they're evidence instead of just who I am. Jun-ho's face crumpled. You're right. You're absolutely right. And he stopped, started again. My father used to say, trust no one, suspect everyone, and you'll die old. I've lived that way for so long, I don't know how to do anything else. Then maybe you should die alone. Rebecca moved toward the door. Because that's what happens when you suspect everyone. Eventually, there's no one left. Please don't go. Why? So you can use me as bait again? So I can stand there while your world judges me and you pretend to care? She turned back. I'd rather be invisible and eat a one than this in your life. I need you. The words came out desperate, raw. Not for the plan, not as bait. He struggled visibly. Last night, at the Pojangmacha, when you asked what I'd be if I could walk away, that was the first time in 11 years anyone has asked me that question. The first time someone looked at me and saw past the ghost to the person underneath. And this morning, you thanked me by assuming I was a traitor. I know, Jun-ho's voice broke. I know, and I can't take it back, and I have no right to ask you to stay. But Rebecca? Her name on his lips stopped her at the door. You're the only real thing in my life, and I'm terrified that means I'll destroy you. Rebecca stood in the doorway, caught between the impulse to run and the terrible, stupid hope that maybe he meant it. That maybe this broken, dangerous man had actually seen her, really seen her, and that was worth the risk of staying. I'm going home, she said finally, to my apartment, to my life, and you're going to stay away from me until you figure out whether I'm a person or a tool. How long? However long it takes. She walked out into the Seoul afternoon, leaving Jun-ho standing in an empty warehouse, surrounded by Min-ho and his soldiers, more alone than he'd ever been. 3 days passed like wounds that wouldn't close. Rebecca spent them in her apartment, door locked, phone silenced, eating ramyeon, and trying to convince herself she'd made the right choice. She'd walked away. She'd chosen dignity over danger. She'd refused to be anyone's tool. So why did her chest ache like something vital had been carved out? Her laptop sat on the kitchen counter. The police had returned it after Jun-ho's people cleared her of suspicion. She hadn't opened it, hadn't checked her bank account to see if the money was still there, hadn't looked at the news, which Min-ho had warned her would be complicated. On the third night, her resolve broke. She opened her laptop. The wire transfers were still there. 8 million won. Jun-ho hadn't taken it back. She opened Naver News. The headlines hit like fists. Kang Jun-ho's mystery woman, American security expert, or elaborate hoax. Sources say syndicate leader, obsessed with foreign consultant. Ji-woo Park speaks out. My brother-in-law has lost his way. There were photos. From the gala, Rebecca on Jun-ho's arm, her face caught in a moment of genuine laughter. She looked happy. She looked like she belonged. The comments section was exactly what she expected. Brutal. Racist. Fat-shaming distilled into 1,000 small cruelties. But buried among the hatred were other voices. She looks confident. I like it. Why is everyone so bothered? Let the man date who he wants. Honestly, she's prettier than half the women there. They're just mad. Rebecca closed the laptop before she could read more. Her phone buzzed. Not Jun-ho. She'd know his number anywhere now, unknown caller. Against her better judgment, she answered. Miss Ricks. Jiwoo's voice was silk over steel, her English perfect and cold. We should talk. Every instinct screamed to hang up. I have nothing to say to you. But I have much to say to you. My brother-in-law has put you in a very dangerous position. I'd like to offer you a way out. I'm already out. Are you? Because my sources tell me Jun-ho calls your number 17 times a day, that he stationed guards outside your building, that he's not sleeping, barely eating, making careless mistakes. Jiwoo's laugh was delicate, poisonous. You may have walked away, Miss Ricks, but he hasn't let go, which makes you a liability to him, to his organization, to yourself. Rebecca's hand tightened on the phone. What do you want? Coffee? Tomorrow. There's a cafe in Samcheongdong. Onion. Very public, very safe. Just two women talking. A pause. Unless you're afraid. The challenge was obvious. Rebecca should refuse. Should block the number and pretend this conversation never happened. What time? She heard herself say. 2 p.m. Come alone, Miss Ricks. And please, wear something nice. You made quite an impression at the gala. I'd hate for you to disappoint. The line went dead. Rebecca sat in her dark apartment, phone clutched in her hand, wondering if she'd just agreed to her own execution. Jun-ho hadn't slept in 72 hours. His apartment was a war room. Laptops, surveillance feeds, files spread across every surface. Minho had staged an intervention that morning, physically removing the coffee pot and threatening to sedate him if he didn't rest. She's not coming back, Minho said, not unkindly. You need to accept that. I can't. Jun-ho's voice was raw from disuse. I almost killed her, Minho. Put a gun on an innocent woman because I was too broken to trust what I felt. What you felt? Jun-ho looked up, and his eyes were hollowed out, haunted. I'm falling in love with her. No, I've already fallen. And I destroyed it before it could even begin. Minho was silent for a long moment. Then fix it. How? She won't answer my calls, won't see me. I have guards on her building and she hasn't left in 3 days. Jun-ho's laugh was bitter. I've become exactly what she accused me of. Someone who sees her as a tool instead of a person. So stop treating her like one. Stop surveilling her. Stop calling. Give her space to decide what she wants. And if she decides she doesn't want this, doesn't want me, then you let her go. Minho's hand landed on Jun-ho's shoulder. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You give them the choice you never gave Hannah. The words hit like a bullet. Jun-ho remembered his wife's note. I'm sorry I couldn't be brave enough to leave while breathing. He'd caged her, called it protection, and she died to escape him. He wouldn't do that to Rebecca. Pull the guards, Jun-ho said quietly. Stop monitoring her phone. Give her back her freedom. Jun-ho, if Jiwoo moves against her, then that's Rebecca's choice to make, not mine. He stood, bones aching with exhaustion. I'm going to sleep, and when I wake up, we're going to find Jiwoo's proof the right way, without using Rebecca as bait. But as Minho left, Jun-ho's phone buzzed with an alert from the surveillance system he'd just ordered dismantled. Rebecca's phone. Incoming call from Jiwoo Park. His blood turned to ice. He pulled up the audio feed, technically illegal, definitely wrong. But he'd promised to give her choice, not to stop protecting her. Jiwoo's voice. Coffee, tomorrow. Onion Cafe in Samcheongdong. Rebecca's response. What time? 2 p.m. Come alone. Jun-ho's hand slammed down on the desk. Minho rushed back in. She's meeting Jiwoo tomorrow. Alone. Jun-ho was already moving, grabbing his jacket. I have to stop her. If you show up now, after everything you said, I don't care. Jun-ho's voice was steel. I let Hana make her choice, and she chose death. I won't let Rebecca walk into a trap because I'm too proud to interfere. Then don't go as the ghost. Minho blocked the door. Go as Jun-ho, the man who's terrified of losing her, not the criminal who wants to control her. Jun-ho stopped, took a breath. Another. What if she tells me to leave? Then you leave, but at least she'll know you tried. Jun-ho nodded slowly. Then he was out the door, into the Seoul night, driving too fast toward Itaewon, and the woman who'd become his most dangerous weakness. He parked outside her building, looked up at her window, dark, except for the blue glow of a laptop screen. His phone was in his hand, her number on the screen. All he had to do was call, explain, beg if necessary. But words had failed him before. Words had accused her, hurt her, driven her away. So Jun-ho did something he hadn't done in 11 years. He waited for her to see him standing in the street below, waited for her to make the choice. Come down or close the curtains, waited to learn if love was something you controlled or something you surrendered to. When have you had to choose between protecting someone and giving them freedom? Tell us below. Rebecca saw him from her window. Jun-ho stood in the street below, hands in his pockets, looking up at her apartment like a man waiting for verdict. Not the ghost, just a man, scared and hoping and heartbreakingly human. She should close the curtains, should let him stand there until he understood that some things, once broken, couldn't be fixed. Instead, she grabbed her coat. The November air was sharp, biting through her sweater as she stepped onto the street. Jun-ho turned, and the relief on his face was so naked it hurt to look at. "You came down," he said. "You're hard to ignore when you're standing in the middle of the street." Rebecca crossed her arms. "What do you want, Jun-ho?" "To tell you not to meet Ji-woo tomorrow." He took a step closer. "It's a trap. She's going to—" "I know." Rebecca's voice was quiet. "I'm not stupid. I know what she wants." "Then why did you agree?" "Because I'm tired of running. Tired of being afraid. Tired of letting people like her decide what I'm worth." She met his eyes. "And because I wanted to see if you'd care enough to stop me." Jun-ho's breath caught. "Of course I care. Rebecca, He stopped, started again. 3 days ago, I accused you of betrayal because I was too afraid to believe someone like you could be real, could choose someone like me without ulterior motive." His voice cracked. "I've spent 11 years trusting no one, suspecting everyone, building walls so high I forgot what it felt like to be human. And then you walked into my life, brilliant, brave, honest in a way I'd forgotten existed, and you terrified me. Why? Because you made me want things I have no right to want. A normal life, trust, love." He took another step. "Because when I held your hand at that pojangmatcha, I felt more at peace than I have in a decade. And that scared me more than any assassin ever could." Rebecca's throat tightened. "You still put a gun on me. I know, and I can't take it back, can't make it unhappen. All I can do is stand here and tell you the truth. I'm falling in love with you, Rebecca Ricks, and I have no idea how to do that without destroying everything I touch." The words hung between them like bridges made of paper. "I'm meeting her tomorrow," Rebecca said finally, "but not because I'm bait, not because you asked, because I need to look her in the eye and show her that I'm not afraid anymore, that she can't make me disappear. Then I'm coming with you. No, Rebecca, no, Jun-ho. If you're there, it's still about you, your protection, your control." She moved closer, close enough to see the exhaustion in his eyes, the fear. "I need to do this. Myself, need to prove to her, to Seoul, to myself, that I'm not someone who needs saving. What if she hurts you? Then I'll hurt her back. I'm not helpless." Rebecca's smile was sharp. "You forget, I'm the woman who saw through Ghost Protocol in 30 seconds. I think I can handle one bitter sister-in-law." Jun-ho's laugh was surprised, almost helpless. "You're extraordinary, you know that? I'm starting to." She reached up, touched his face, the first time she'd initiated contact. His skin was cold beneath her palm. "But I need you to understand something. If this," she gestured between them, "is going to be real, it can't be a transaction. Can't be you protecting me and me being grateful. It has to be equals, partners, two people choosing each other despite the world telling them it's wrong. I want that." His hand covered hers. "More than I've wanted anything." "Then prove it. Tomorrow you stay away. You let me handle Ji-woo. And when I come back," her voice wavered, "if I come back, we start over. No bait, No plans, just two people trying to figure out if love is possible in a world that wants to destroy it. Jun-ho pulled her into his arms, and Rebecca let herself fall into the embrace, his heartbeat wild against her ear, his breath warm in her hair. They stood there in the middle of an Itaewon street, two people who'd spent their lives being what others expected, finally choosing to be human. "I'll be waiting," he whispered, "for however long it takes." The next afternoon, Rebecca walked into Onion Cafe in Samcheong-dong, wearing jeans and her favorite sweater. The one that was comfortable, soft, unapologetically hers. No armor, no mask, just herself. Ji-woo was already there, elegant in designer clothes, her smile sharp. "Miss Ricks, you came. Let's skip the pleasantries." Rebecca sat down, meeting Ji-woo's eyes without flinching. "You want me gone. You think I'm making Jun-ho weak. So tell me, what's your offer?" Ji-woo's smile widened. "Direct. I appreciate that. 5 million won, clean break. You leave Seoul, forget Jun-ho exists, and everyone walks away happy. Except Jun-ho. He'll recover. Men like him always do." Ji-woo leaned forward. "But you, Miss Ricks? You're a curiosity, a scandal. The moment his interest fades, you'll be back where you started, invisible, rejected, alone. I'm offering you dignity. Take the money and leave before he destroys you." Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "No? Excuse me? I said no. I'm not leaving. Not for money. Not because you're threatened by what Jun-ho and I have. Not because you think I'm not good enough." She leaned forward. "Here's what I think. You loved your sister, and you blamed Jun-ho for her death, maybe rightly, but killing him won't bring her back. It'll just add more bodies to a pile that's already too high." Ji-woo's face hardened. "You know nothing about my sister. I know she felt trapped. I know she chose death over asking for help. I know that's a pain that never fully heals." Rebecca's voice softened. "But I also know that using me to hurt Jun-ho won't fix anything. It'll just prove you're as trapped as she was, caught in a cycle of violence and revenge that destroys everything it touches." "And you think love will save him?" Ji-woo's laugh was bitter. "You think a fat American woman can reform a killer? Make him good? No. I think two broken people can choose to be less broken together. That's not salvation. It's just survival." Rebecca stood. "So here's my offer. Walk away. Stop trying to kill Jun-ho. And maybe, just maybe, we can all survive this." Ji-woo stared at her for a long moment. Then she stood, placed money on the table. "You're either very brave or very stupid, Miss Ricks. Can't I be both?" For the first time, Ji-woo's smile was almost genuine. "My sister would have liked you. She always admired people who refused to break." She turned to leave, then paused. "I'm not ready to forgive him, but I'm tired of being angry. So, for now, truce." Then she was gone, leaving Rebecca alone with her coffee and the stunning realization that she'd just faced down a killer and survived. Her phone buzzed. "Jun-ho, are you okay?" Rebecca smiled, typing back. "Come find out." He arrived in 15 minutes, breathless, searching the cafe until his eyes found hers. Rebecca stood, and Jun-ho crossed the distance between them in 3 strides, cupping her face in his hands. "You're alive. I'm alive," she grinned. "And I handled it. No guns, no threats, just conversation. And she's going to leave you alone. For now." Rebecca's arms circled his waist. "Turns out, sometimes the best weapon is just refusing to be afraid." Jun-ho kissed her then, soft, reverent, like she was something precious he'd almost lost. When they pulled apart, he was smiling. "So, two people choosing each other," he said. "Where do we start? Dinner? Somewhere real. Not a gala or a pojangmatcha. Just dinner. Like normal people." "I don't know how to be normal." "Good." Rebecca laughed. "Neither do I. We'll figure it out together." They walked out into the Seoul afternoon, hand in hand. And for the first time since arriving in this city, Rebecca felt like she belonged. Not because she'd changed, not because she'd made herself smaller or more acceptable, but because someone had looked at all of her, her body, her brilliance, her scars, her strength, and chosen to stay. 6 months later, the headlines would read, Kang Jun-ho's American fiancée revolutionizes Syndicate security systems. A year after that, the Queen of Seoul's Underground, how Rebecca Ricks became Korea's most formidable power broker. But that afternoon in Samcheong-dong, they were just two people who'd learned that love wasn't about being perfect. It was about being seen, truly, completely seen, and choosing not to look away. Seoul stretched around them, glittering and complex, and finally feeling like home. What part of Rebecca and Jun-ho's journey resonated with you most? Have you ever had to choose between safety and being truly seen? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. See you soon.